We are back for another episode of The Buzz, and we have something amazing in store here for you guys today. Follow us on Gospel Music Buzz on all platforms. But today we're going to be speaking with our friend from across the pond, our UK compadre. We're going to be speaking with Sarah Téibo, singer, songwriter, award-winning singer, songwriter, as well as host of Equilibrium Live. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. See, there she go, covering all bases already. 1 second in, and she's already covering all bases. Love it, love it. So, Sarah,
Thank
how are
you.
you today?
I'm good. I'm really good. Excited about the weekend, excited about summer, excited about the kids coming out of school next week. Yeah,
Oh, so the
I'm
kids are
pumped.
still in school.
Yeah, one of my daughters is off school, but my younger one's still in for one more week and then summer holidays. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm sure she's probably pretty excited and can't wait to jump right into that, to that summer vacation. Yeah, my kids are already out of school. And basically, what it means is that once your kids are out of school, and everyone knows that who has kids, once they're out of school, they're just going to eat more, right? So you notice your food bill just
And
astronomically goes up.
it's snacks the
Exactly,
whole time.
exactly. Oh,
They're constantly snacking. It's insane. And constantly hungry
exactly.
as well.
Uh-huh. They're just bored and they're just snacking. They're going back and forth to the fridge. So at this point, the tip here is that you need to set up your computer not too far from the refrigerator. So as they're going back and forth, you just gotta give them a look like, didn't you just go there?
I know, right? You give them
So
chores as well, and just kind of rewards them when they get
exactly.
things done. But yeah, it's
So
gonna
we
be really
want to
fun.
start off with at least one, a little light icebreaker question here for you. So, I've never been to the UK. So you tell me, what is your favorite go-to cheat snack? So that can be a dessert, that can be something. So if I go there, I don't want to count calories. I don't want to think about anything healthy. I just want to eat and have fun. What would you recommend for me?
I'd say fish and chips.
Fish and
Although
chips?
that said, it's not terribly healthy and it's not a snack. But if you want something British that
Uh-huh.
you can brag about when you get back, definitely fish and chips.
Fish and chips. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And then one last one here for you. From a personal hobby perspective, what is something that you love to do, but not too many people is aware of that? And I know that's a little hard in the social media age to feel like everyone is aware of everything. You can try
Yeah,
something
I know,
for the
right?
first
Yeah.
time, and we are blogging about it. But do you have a hobby that not too many people is aware of?
There's so many things I love to do actually that I don't get the time to do because obviously married, kids, job, music. I
Mhm.
love drawing actually.
Drawing. Okay.
And it's been a long time, but I love drawing. Thankfully, my kids have taken on the gift and they've got the
Awesome.
time. So my kids draw a lot, but I love drawing. I just never
Awesome.
get the time to do that. Yeah.
Nice, nice. That's good. You gotta do one of those Instagram speed up type artwork where
You
you're
know what?
showing how you started.
Yeah, recently myself and my daughter we drew a realistic looking eye, and I took a picture of it, and I've still not posted it. One of these days I'll post it.
It's
I thought, oh, this is good. I'm gonna post it, but that's the thing. Sometimes I fall back when it comes to posting stuff on social media. It's a lot of
exactly.
work as
We
well,
got so much.
So
hmm
yeah.
We got so much going on. So now explain to me, Sarah, how did and the next thing too, right? Because I know everyone has an origin story. Everyone kind of started somewhere along that journey when it comes to singing, songwriting, the whole shebang. So how did you get your start? Like, what's your story into this?
Yeah, I think for singing, I when I was about 10, I was in the kids choir. So that was when I got my introduction to like singing, not listening to music, but singing.
hmm
And I remember I used to be the kid that everyone loves to hate because from that very young age, I always got the solo. I didn't know why, but I just found out that I always got given the microphone to sing the solo. Um, but in terms of songwriting, so when I was a teenager, we had a youth choir, and I used to go to a church because I was born in the UK, but I went back to Nigeria, and I grew up the best part of my life in Nigeria,
Okay.
and I was in a church called Foursquare Church. I don't know if you have it in your country. You probably do. Um, and what we had every month was a theme. Um, it could be sanctification, it could be holiness, it could be redemption, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote a song about the theme of the month. So, in as much as we sang, the Maranathas and the integrity songs and what's this lady's name, Martha Meninzes and all those ladies, Darlene Zex, we equally had to write a song to the theme. And for me, that was definitely the introduction to songwriting because we all had the task of writing a song to the theme. And sometimes there was no song to the theme out there, so you had to write a song to the theme. And it didn't always sound like record breaking, chart breaking music, but it was from our hearts. It was authentic, and we just wrote. And for me, that definitely was the start of songwriting. So I definitely credit my teenage years in the choir. It was called Echoes of Life. That's what the choir was called,
Right. Okay.
and that is definitely where I kind of got my start to songwriting, which is now kind of bloomed. So I'm definitely not writing what I wrote when I was 15, but that was where the start came, to be honest.
Awesome. I mean, and I think that's important, right? Because the fact that you were thrusted into that environment where you had to come up with ideas, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't like, I'm going to sit around today. If I wrote one song today, maybe another one tomorrow, if I feel like it, if I don't. But this way, you're there, you have to do it, you're coming up with it, and it's just happening. So I think that's the best way to learn, right? So that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
And then,
definitely.
so I guess what kind of writer would you say, like when you're going to write, are you the type that you prefer to write with a group? You prefer to write by yourself? Like, what's usually your writing style?
Whew, that is a loaded question, I have to say, because for me, there's no rules when it comes to writing.
Hmm.
I wish I could say when you play piano, I get inspiration, which happens, by the way,
Hmm.
but that's not the only way that I write. Some of you who follow me on social media may have seen a post I did about the lead single from my album, Secure, which I wrote whilst running. And that has never happened to me before.
Oh,
I was
really?
out running, I had my audio Bible playing in my head or in my ears rather, and I was listening to the book of First and Second Samuel, how God kept on delivering David from Saul and then from all his enemies over time. And the chorus for the song and the bridge for the song came to me whilst I was running. And whilst out of breath, because I'm one of those people who likes to track my pace, so I didn't stop running. I carried on running, and I brought my phone out and opened up my voice notes, and I recorded the idea. I was completely out of breath, but I recorded the idea.
Wow.
And every time I go into studio when we were creating the song, I kept on anyone who would listen. I'd be like, listen to the voice note, what it sounded like at the, and listen to it now. I always got freaked out by the journey of and and the song now, and the song is on the Billboard charts and things like that. So that is an example of a very unconventional way of writing. And sometimes I could be listening to worship music, and sometimes in church actually that happens a lot in church.
Hmm.
When worshiping, I get new worship songs as well, and so I would literally bring my phone out and quickly record the idea. And sometimes I get instruction to write on a specific theme, and that is when it's the hardest. So
Mm.
for example, on my new album Restored, the song Restored on the album was the hardest one for me to write because I received the word before the melody or anything. I just knew I had to write a song called Restored, and this was back in 2019. And I remember asking God, is it me that's being restored? Is it faith being restored? Is it hope? I mean, I didn't understand what was
Hmm.
being restored. But then come 2020, and everyone experiencing different kinds of loss from every extreme: loss of life, loss of
Yeah.
livelihood, loss of time, loss of hope, loss of jobs, and then I began to understand what God wanted me to do with the word restored.
Yeah.
And then the task became real, and it became even harder because I knew that it had to come with a punch. It had to be relatable, and it had to bring hope. So it had to be a song that kind of echoed the realities of what we'd experienced in the last 18 months, but also brought a message of hope to say, the words I got for the chorus are, now the battle's won, new life has begun, you've restored my soul, you have made me whole. But to get to that point took me months because I knew the task. So that's the writing that is sometimes hard, is when I'm like set a task by the Spirit of God to say, write about this. And I'm always like, I want to make sure I do it right. It's different from when you receive a song and it just comes naturally, like,
Uh-huh.
ooh, this song just came while I was running. But Restored was such a hard job to write. But I think for me, it's one of my my most intensive songs lyrically, and one of the ones that I love the most on the project as well. So
See, you kind of jump into the project. You're talking about
oh,
restored, but
sorry.
you're just
You
like,
asked about
good.
songwriting. I'm writing a
I know,
project.
I know. It's like you're just like I'm gonna have to come back to it because I still got some specific questions about that. But you're talking about songwriting, so I'm just gonna let you go. I'm gonna let
Fair
you
enough.
flow with it.
Fair enough.
Oh man, but no, that's interesting because many times when I'm talking to songwriters, they're saying, hey, I went to Bible study today, and while we were in Bible study and praying, something came to me when I was in praise and worship, when my bishop was speaking. So, everyone gets inspiration in different places. And then there's others
Absolutely.
that's like, I just go, I sit in this place or I go to this certain place and the inspiration comes from there. So I'm always curious about how are others gaining that inspiration, how they're gleaming it, where they're getting it from, and so forth. So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that
Mm.
part. And then I know you're also a runner because you alluded to that. So how many miles do you typically run? And what's your
Uh,
time limit?
you know what? I can't remember. I need
Okay,
to check.
okay. I'm
I
I'm not a
literally check
runner. I'm
my
not
app.
a runner.
But I do Ks, I do kilometers, so I do like a 3K or a 5K. I
Okay.
think the highest I've probably done would be 6 or 7. I don't try and exert myself unnecessarily because it's at the end of the day I'm just doing it for me. And yeah, so I just do like a 3K or a 5K, maybe a 6K. I don't think I've ever done a 10K. I'd love to do a 10K, but I haven't. So
I I did a 5K like I think twice. Like I ran the 5K like twice and I felt like I was gonna die both times.
hey.
So it's
I love it. The thing about running is before you go, you just do not want to go. Well, I speak for myself, right? But
Mhm.
when I start, it's like, oh, I don't want to stop. And then it gets to a point where you reach a climax and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And then when you finish, like, oh, I can't wait to do it. It's just like a roller coaster of emotions when you're
But
running,
that's just like
basically.
with anything in life that's good for
I
you.
know, right? True.
And it's
True.
like,
That is so
it's in
true.
the morning, I gotta go to work.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
here. It's Friday, it's the weekend. Like, oh, Monday, I gotta go back to work again.
yeah. But you were happy when you got the job, though.
See, there
You
you
shared a
go.
testimony in church when you got the job.
I feel like you're getting ready to preach right now. I'm like, that's a word right there. Preach, preach,
I
Sister Sarah,
know.
preach, preach.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you started off right. So when you mentioned before when you started, so you released your first single, "Steal My Joy." That was the first single, right? And then the
Yep.
first album, "Walk with Me." So kind of thinking back a bit, where you started there and where you're at now. You've received multiple awards. You've collaborated with so many greats along the way, and you're still collaborating right now. Like, what are some of those lessons you would say, you have learned along the way that you were like, what, for someone else that is starting, I have to ensure, I pass on this bit of tidbit information or so forth. What would some of those be?
Whoa, I could write a book, literally. There's so much. There's so much. I think one of the things that I always struggle with, regardless of what release I'm doing, is sometimes I get anxious about how would this song be received? How would the song perform? Would people like it? That is typically one of my biggest concerns. But each time I find I had no reason to worry because the songs tend to do really well and my songs tend to be well received. So one thing I'd say is just be confident in it's hard sometimes to be confident in yourself, but it's necessary. You need to have self-belief in yourself and the gifts that God has given you, and just put out a good body of work. I always set out from day one to have excellence in everything that I do. So my music, my kind of vision that I had was if somebody plays any of the best music out there and then they played mine straight after, there shouldn't be a huge drop in the quality such that people were like, oh, what happened? People shouldn't even
Yes.
notice if it's playing in the background and I come after anyone who's like renowned. People should just carry on doing whatever they were doing without knowing or sensing something dropped in the quality. So that has always been my benchmark. And so I'm always looking at myself like a third party. So, for example, there's a song on my first album, Save Me, which when I recorded it and my producer gave it to me, I was like, yeah, I think it's okay. I listened to it back and I said to myself, I don't sound like somebody who needs saving. So it was like me having a conversation with an artist and I'm the manager, like, you don't sound like someone who needs saving. You need to go back and do the vocals. That's literally how I said to myself. So
Mm.
I scrapped the entire vocals.
Oh
I
wow.
got a vocal coach, I got a vocal producer, and I went and redid the song again. The point I'm making is, obviously, at the end of the day, a song is only as good as you make it. You can't keep going and fixing everything, that you think is not right, but
Hmm.
you know when exactly you've hit the mark on a song. And so for me, getting that level of excellence has always been particular. And so sometimes I'm hard on my own self, as much as if I had an artist, they'll probably be tired of me because I'll be picking things that need to be fixed. But it's that attention to detail that I think is very critical to produce a good body of work. And obviously there are constraints like budget. I don't have all the money in the world to mix and master like a Mary Mary or a Kirk Franklin. But
Yeah.
within the constraints that I have, within the financial constraints that I have, I try to make the best body of work or the best product possible. So definitely I'd say aim for excellence, believe in yourself, and don't worry about, what's gonna happen when the song comes out. There's always gonna be someone who loves your music. So yeah.
See, that's key, right? So if I kind of just dissect a bit what you mentioned just now, one of the things you mentioned as far as quality, right? Because as independent artist, as someone that has an independent label, the one thing you want to strive for, because I see sometimes, artists trying to release, again, nothing wrong against that, but if you're releasing a new song every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every month, and you're on a cycle where you're releasing, some of that time can take to say, hey, if I'm going to pay to record and release certain things, and if it's not at a higher quality, maybe I just need to release one song every 4 months.
Yeah.
And that is the song that I put my time, I market it well. I do every single thing to make sure it's up to par, because now, and you just said it, not because you're independent mean that it should equate to something of lesser value, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
times independence is just choice. Independence is just freedom. It can mean different reasons why you don't want to be signed to a label, outside of the fact that if you never gotten an offer, but you just don't want to do that. But that quality, like you said, something is playing in the background. Once yours come on, someone shouldn't be looking like, can you turn that down? Like, that shouldn't be the case at all. So I'm really glad that you touched on that. And even with your, when you mentioned just now too, like, as far as re-recording or getting a vocal coach and so forth, because I've seen that even with the progression with my own wife, who sings as well, she have constantly invested in vocal
Yeah.
coaches, going to this seminar, going to that, because at the end of the day, if God, if you look at when he spoke about in the Bible with the talents, and he gave this one talent and this one two and three, like, you have to basically take what's given to you, and it's your job
Mm.
to shepherd that. It's your job to be a good steward of that, whatever that
Yeah.
thing is. So it's really important that you also touched on that. And I know you cover this and a whole lot more, in your podcast, in your show that you do on YouTube, Equilibrium Live. So we can kind of pivot a little bit to that. So what made you started that? I know you guys are in your first season, episode 8, just finished. There's some discussions there with the crossing over and whatnot. I have some
Oh yes.
comments, but
Yes.
I'm gonna save my comments to you too. But I'm gonna get into that just now. But tell us what made you, started that. You had some amazing guests. You had, in one of the episodes back, and then you also have someone that we've worked with before, Angela Mosspool, and the marketing
Yeah.
niche. So a lot of the topics is, it's very topical. It's very now. Is things that everyone needs to know. So what kind of made you went down that path as well?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to music business, I'm very passionate about music business because when I started out, I very quickly realized this is a very expensive venture, and being a very being a God expects us to be faithful stewards of the resources that He gives to us. So I felt it would be very irresponsible of me to take a certain amount of money, put it in a project, and not think of how strategically I can make the money back, even though I'm not doing it for money, but I need to be accountable to God for my financial resources as well. And so I started studying and learning the fundamentals, if you like, of music business, and just to make sure that at least one was breaking even or thinking long term on how to make it a sustainable venture and ministry at the same time, whilst balancing the music ministry. So you're not necessarily thinking business to the point where it tilts to one side and then the ministry suffers. You have to have the right balance, hence equilibrium. So balancing music business and music ministry because they're both equally important. And so I it was almost unintentional because I end up being on the phone with any and every friend of mine in music.
Uh-huh.
We could be talking about a random thing, and the minute they drop a comment about something to do with music business, we could be on for an hour and I'll just be talking to them
Wow.
about stuff. And they'll be like, Sarah, you need to do coaching. This was back in 2019. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have the time. So many, I have friends who came from outside London to have
Mm-hmm.
lunch with me just to talk about music strategy,
Wow.
or talk about music business and things like that. So, and it had been happening in the background informally on the phone. I remember I once called an artist's manager. This is a manager of an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and I was telling him about PPL, and he didn't even know what that was. And this is something to do with music admin. Now, if you're
Mm-hmm.
responsible for an artist's career and you don't know anything about the admin that needs to be in place, we have a problem. And I was on the phone to him for an hour, just talking him through that. And he was like, Sarah, I need you on my team. I'm like, well, I wish I had the time. But what that made me do, it made me realize that I needed to do, well, whatever I could, because I can't solve everyone's problem, but at least help. So at the start of 2021, I started doing a 1 minute quick fire video because I knew I didn't have all the time and I didn't want to put myself in a position where I need to spend time researching and creating a lot of content. So I started recording a 1 minute snippet on
On
specific
Instagram.
topics. So on
That was on
Instagram
Instagram first, right? Yes, yes.
yes, on
Uh-huh.
Instagram,
That
yes.
was the
So
skills. Uh-huh.
exactly. And I was talking so fast sometimes it was insane, but I wanted to keep it into 1 minute. And then about 2 months ago or 3 months ago thereabouts, I was planning my own music release and
Mm-hmm.
looking at my own strategy and reevaluating what my marketing mix should look like and where I should spend what amount essentially. So just kind of allocating resources
Mm-hmm.
within different aspects of marketing. And so I was asking myself, if I'm spending X on radio and Y on Spotify, how do I justify both? And then I put a poll out on my social media. I said, where do you listen to music, radio or Spotify? Right. And 90% of people came back and said Spotify or YouTube, as a matter of fact. So I then posted my results and said, so what's happening to radio? And then my radio friends started DMing me and going, what do you mean? You know, like, not like they were accusing me, but they were like, have you
Yeah,
done your
yeah.
research properly? Because radio is not going anywhere. I said, okay, let's get you on a conversation. And so that was how the first equilibrium happened. It
Mm-hmm.
was just radio versus Spotify. Can radio survive?
Uh-huh.
That was so it was me just going, okay, so I didn't do this to throw you guys under the bus. It was just my
Yeah.
innocent research, but let's have a conversation. And then in the course of having that conversation, and I made sure that I picked people who had a diverse longevity in the industry. So I had somebody who's been for decades, and I had somebody who'd been for a few years. He's actually a millennial because I wanted to see what a younger person in radio was
And
thinking about
strategies
the
as well.
question
Yeah, makes
exactly.
sense.
And in spite of the age difference, quote unquote, they were very they saw eye to eye on the fact that there was a huge knowledge gap in the Christian scene compared to the mainstream scene. So saying, oh, when I receive music from a mainstream artist and I receive music from a Christian artist, there's a difference, not just in the quality, but in the presentation, in the metadata I receive, even the etiquette. And I was like, so do you guys think there's a knowledge gap in this space? And they were like, yes. So I then said, okay, so maybe what I should do next week is talk about another topic. And that was how it happened. So I left that session, went
Wow.
to
Yeah.
my phone and started making notes of different topics that we could talk about each week, just essentially to plug the knowledge gap. So we've done production, we've done social media, we've done marketing, we've done publishing, we've done funding, so different ways where artists can get money. Yes, just yesterday we did what did we do yesterday? I forgot. We had one on management, so artist management,
Yeah.
and we had one on blurring the gaps or blurring the lines rather between Christian and mainstream. Essentially, just talking about the different aspects of business and ministry. And we're going to episode 10. Next week we're going to be talking about the indie hustle. Why am I doing this? I don't need to talk about. I'm not. I don't need to pitch the. But you asked me anyway. But the point
No,
being,
no, that's what I'm
it's
asking. Yeah.
going it's going to 10 episodes, and then I'm going to park it. So I'm literally just going for 10 episodes. But on YouTube, there's a playlist so people can watch it back. Because by my the idea is that it's something that would serve people for as long as
Time to
possible, so
come.
they can always go
Correct.
back, watch it. Today I was on the phone to a friend of mine. I had no idea she'd been watching, and she said to me that not only has she been watching, but after she watched the episode and publishing, she went to the website of one of the guys who was on the platform and downloaded, because he has a template on metadata, and she
Who, Keith?
downloaded the document. Keith, she went to Keith's website and downloaded that document, and she was like, oh my god, is this all the metadata I need to get for my music? So I felt really happy that
Yeah.
somebody is benefiting from the conversation, and if that is one person, doing the right thing, that's job done. And that's my vision, is to have that as a repository on YouTube, because for me, I believe that when we get to a certain place, we need to pull people and bring them in, and not shut the door behind them. It just facilitate other people getting to where we are. And I just believe the next generation always has to do more and better than the ones that have gone ahead. It's not, for me, it's not great if we do so well and then the ones coming after are struggling. I just don't think it's great. So
That's
that's one of the
yeah.
reasons why I'm doing Equilibrium live as well.
That's amazing, and I'm gonna even start, recommending people as well to go there, because I've seen when I've popped in on some of the episodes, and like you said, yeah, Keith's just brilliant. I listen to him
Yeah.
in Clubhouse and other places. We have an interview we got to set up to talk with him. It's just been scheduling as well too. But yeah, I think that's amazing that you have that source there, and even for persons such as myself, as we're having discussions, and I'm constantly, when you're coaching artists, because a lot of times, again, if someone submit, guys, what we're doing outside of event coverage and marketing and media promotion and all of that, content creation as such, we're also assisting our artists as they come along. They're looking, because a lot of times we work with artists that some might have released multiple albums, others might have now been starting that journey, and they're just like totally clueless, and no fault of their own, but at the same time too, it's still an onus of, hey, if you're going to invest your money in something, at least be able to explain the strategy, what you're thinking about, where you're going. And if the person doesn't know, then I'm like, okay, have you done this as yet? Have you registered here? Have you done this? Have you done that? The first question or the first answer I'm always hearing, well, I'm registered on Bandcamp, or I'm registered on this place or that place. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna distribute your music for you. But what else have you done? Awkward silence. So, and it's great that you've created this resource as well. So now I can start sending and punting people there to say, hey, before we talk
Yeah.
again, look at episode 1 through 10.
It's like a textbook now.
Exactly.
It's like a
Look at
course.
episode 1 through 10 and come back to me.
Yeah. And to be honest, I've been so humbled because, as I said, it wasn't something I said, oh, in 2021, I want to do this. It just happened.
Yeah.
But the caliber of people that God has given me yeses from have just blown
Mhm.
me away. I've had some real, as you say, Keith. I had Les, who used to work in integrity in A&R. I've had the CEO of Black Lives in Music. I've had some really renowned individuals. I had
Yeah.
pretty much the best managers in the UK the other day, called that music's manager, Governor B's manager, some really renowned individuals. So it's not just me coming to share my opinion. It's like
Yes.
solid, seasoned individuals,
Hmm.
sharing some solid, information. So yeah, definitely. I'm really just humbled that they have given us their time, because it's quite late as well.
Exactly.
And they've just downloaded so much knowledge that even I watch it back to make notes. So
Hmm.
yeah.
And what you mentioned just now, it's funny you said it, because I was having a discussion with someone today, and as we were going through strategy and such like that, I mentioned that same exact thing. I'm like, I'm at the place right now in my life that I believe that whenever God opens up a door for me, it's never just for me to walk through and feel great that I'm on the other side, but I'm always looking at my circle, looking at
Mm,
someone that I might be working with, just trying to figure out, what is it that this individual need? What is it that, this door has been open to me, but who else can I allow to step through that door with me, right? Who else can I allow to be able to benefit from this opportunity that God has afforded me? Because it
mm-hmm,
wasn't just for me. sure, it's great that I got the opportunity and I get to share my ideas and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's really never truly for us. And I think once we start looking at things in that angle, God is going to give you more because He's realizing, like, hey, you kind of get the idea right now, right? It's
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
keep
yeah, yeah.
reaching back and reaching back. So it's amazing that you said that because I literally had that discussion like a few hours ago. So that's that's funny you said
That's
that.
cool.
So we can jump into, you have a, packed month like July. I mean, I'm sure it was packed before with everything else that you're doing, but this is release month. So this is crunch
Yes.
time. I know your team is working hard. Shout out to the guys over at, Unbound PR, Vision TV Online. They're doing some amazing work. They already reached out like, hey, we got an artist there that is doing some stuff. You need to talk to this person. They're just, hitting the ground running. You have your
Yeah.
virtual concert. Come, I mean, you tell me what's going on. What do you have coming up? Because I don't need to tell you. You tell me.
I
What do
know,
you
right? I
have
was like,
coming up?
okay, you go then.
Nah, you tell me.
So well, I'm gonna work backwards, okay? So the 30th of July is when the album drops on all platforms. So if you don't know now, you know.
And that's restored. The album
And
name
that the
restored.
album is restored. The title of the
Yes.
album is restored. It's my third studio album and it's my first ever worship album. So the vision for the project is that it would serve as a resource for corporate and individual worship. And as I said earlier, this project has literally been really humbling because when I set out, I mean, sometimes I just get weak when I think about God's grace because when I set out to do this project, I received some very clear instruction of what it needed to be, and coming into a space where, to a degree, there's, if you think about it, if you think about worship music, it's male dominated, it's white male dominated. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just put it out there. So coming into that kind of space and wanting as a single soloist, not even like a worship collective like Maverick City, right? One solo standalone woman coming in with this vision to bring music that would go into churches and be used in worship is a tall order. But I was really clear on what the instruction was. And so on the 30th of July, not only will the album be available on all platforms, but I've had a deal with Multitracks. You're the first here. You are the first to hear. Multitracks is the one and only platform for church worship
I
music
know
in
my
the
wife.
UK.
My wife goes there every week and she downloads everything for church. So go ahead.
Yes. So that is where you get your rehearsal mix, your tracks, anything that you need to use for a song that you want to minister in church.
Yep.
And God favored me to have a deal with multi-tracks. So the
Wow.
little old black single woman, not single, I'm married, like soloist,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not a worship
So,
band, standalone
mhm.
woman, black, worship leader, has a deal with
Wow.
multi-tracks, and my music is going to be available to as many churches that are on their database. So they get
Wow.
the choice to use this music in worship. And for me, it's so
Amazing.
humbling because, as I said at the start, stepping into this space, it was
Mhm.
daunting. I was like, how is this going to happen? But I just knew
Yes.
God, who gave me the instruction, was going to make a way. Because I feel like one of the things that we've seen in the recent past is we don't have as much representation from our own people with our own
Mhm.
sound, with our own music. But we complain. We complain and then we go away and use the music that's not from us, right? How
Mhm.
about creating it so that we have it and
Yeah.
then we don't need to complain? I'm not saying I'm the only black person doing praise and worship,
No, no,
but the
but
more of
you
us
got
are
the
there,
instructions. Yes.
exactly, and the more of us are in those places, because it's one thing to do the music, but it's another thing to put it where it needs to be so churches can access it. And a place like Multitracks is where churches,
That's
as you
it.
said, churches access music. So God just opened that miraculous door for me. So on the
Wow.
30th of July, it will be available on all those platforms and on Multitracks, so you can actually go and use it for church, which was the very clear instruction that I had, which floors me every time I think about it. But moving back to the 24th of July, that is when the virtual album release concert is happening. So it's going to be exclusively on my website, and I'm partnering with a Step Forward in the UK. We want to try and raise enough money to sponsor at least one child with Compassion UK. Compassion is a charity that helps bring children out of poverty in
Yes.
sub-Saharan Africa and in Asia, or the Middle East as well, I think.
Mhm.
And it's through the program is through sponsoring children with monthly donations to help them get medical care education, and obviously in the name of Jesus. So they connect them with churches as
Correct.
well. So they
Yes.
get introduced to the faith as well. And so that's why it's ticketed. Otherwise, I'd have put it on YouTube for free. But being the strategist that I am, I'm just thinking I have a resource. How can I make the most of this resource and be accountable to God at the same time? So
Yep.
I'm using this to reach further, and hopefully we can do that as well, and get one more child sponsored. So tickets can be got on my website, sarahtéibo.co.uk/gigs. And they're limited as well because I can't stream to thousands and thousands of people because I'm streaming
Mhm.
on my website. So once it hits the limit, I'm going to have to stop selling tickets. But you can get for yourself, for your group, for your worship team. I've had worship teams contact me like, I want to get for my entire worship team, which is great.
Wow.
But that's happening on the 24th of July, 7 p.m. BST. So if you do the conversion to where you are, you
It's
might
my
have to
fault.
add or
Yeah.
subtract a few hours.
Hmm.
But 7 p.m. UK time is when it's happening on the 24th. And then working backwards from that is that the album is out for pre-order now. So you
Okay.
can pre-order it on all platforms. On Apple, on iTunes, actually, you can also preview the whole album, so you can have a 30-minute snippet of all the tracks, and then you can decide whether or not it's for you. And on Bandcamp, you can pre-order as well and get 2 songs instantly on Bandcamp. I
And what
recommend
two songs?
Bandcamp.
And what two songs are those?
Secure, the extended version of Secure, which most people haven't heard because they've only heard the 4-minute version. There's a 6-minute version of the song, I make some declarations, and it kind of extends. It's very prophetic and very, it's full of declarations basically.
Hmm.
And God Alone. God Alone has never been released. It's a brand new song on the album. So you want to be the first to hear it, go to Bandcamp. That's the only place you can pre-order and get two
Okay.
songs instantly. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, where do I go from here now? I mean, wow, that was listen, congratulations on
Thank you.
the multi tracks. That is amazing. That is huge. And that is just a test. Listening to everything that you said just now, all I heard was obedience. That's like of everything that you said, it's very clear. It came through very, very clear for anyone that is watching this back, anyone that is there. Like when you're tasked with something, you just have to obey, right? Because he qualifies. You hear it all the time. Sometimes we hear it so much. God qualifies the call. You just have to answer. And sometimes being in church, that's why, I'm at the place sometimes when I see the new Christians, you almost like low key, it's like you kind of envy them. You're like, man, you're just experiencing all of this. You're
Yeah.
fresh, you're not jaded, nothing, and you're just leaping in. And that's why we have to be like kids, right? We
Yeah,
have
you're
to be
right.
like babe when it comes to that. Like we have to keep going through when it comes to that, and we just have to, we get it, we gotta just take it for what it is. Don't add too much to it, don't take away. Just, you were given something. It seemed like such a tall order, and in fact it still is, but you obeyed. And now look at it. See, he already knew what he wanted to do. He picked you out. He knew what he wanted to do with you, with your ministry, with your team, and now you've gone through the process, and then look at the results in the end. So yes, congratulations. Wow, that's
Thank you.
that's amazing. I gotta let my wife know. Listen, when you're going to get songs for Sunday next week, I know
Yeah.
someone.
You
I
can
know
you can sing
someone.
secure now when you I don't know if you've heard secure, but now you can sing secure in your church. You can
See,
get a rehearsal track, you can get the instrumental, the whole shebang. All you need to do is just get the choir to learn the verse and you're good to go.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
making recommendations like, hey guys, have you checked out Sarah? Yeah, check it out, check it out.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome. So just to kind of recap, the album is going to be released on the 30th.
Correct.
Restored is released on the 30th. You can pre-order now on Bandcamp, and you're going to get the 2 songs once you pre-order now. And then on the 24th, you have the virtual concert that's going on the 24th. Streaming, they can purchase tickets, and that's amazing what you're doing by even, teaming up with a step forward and compassion, because I'm familiar with the organization compassion. They're doing such great work. I mean, they're literally doing the Lord's work. You hear people
Yeah.
say like, oh, this person is doing it. They are literally doing the Lord's work. Like
Yeah.
there's no other way. So to align yourself with that, it also speaks to your own character. It speaks to what kind of individual you are, you aligning your ministry. And and just even from afar, why I don't directly know the guys, at a step forward from everything I've seen, they're doing amazing stuff as well too. So it's great that you always hear, growing up, your parents would say, show me your company and I'll tell you who you
Who
are.
you are,
Say,
yes.
oh, okay, see,
Yeah.
because I'm from Guyana. I'm Guyanese, so it's like, show me a company, I tell you you are,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it makes sense that you are surrounding yourself with the right people to just to help to elevate and to edify where you are right now. So we're super excited to see everything that is happening. Definitely all the resources that you're putting out, the music and all that is coming. So yeah, we're excited about all of that.
Thank
And
you.
before we even rap or anything like that, I know and just kind of feel like I'm flipping back and forth, but in going through everything, you did a song on your last album with one of our favorites. We even interviewed him before, and
Oh wow, that's so
I
cool.
can't let that slide. So Fred Hammond. So whoa. Tell us about that. Like a child. Like tell us about that. How did that even happen? Like, talk to us.
You know what? That is another one that's like a proper miracle and testimony. And I pinch myself sometimes, like, did this actually happen? Because Like a Child was the first single from my last album, and I released it in January 2018. And so I was speaking to a friend of mine who's in America, and I was saying, do you know any people who have playlists on Spotify that would like to put this song? This is the original, by the way. This is not Fred Hammond. I
Mm-hmm.
just wrote the song. I was almost finished with the album even, and I'm like, who can put the song on a playlist because I want to, get it onto Spotify playlist and blah blah. So he sends it to all the people he knows, and one guy comes back and is like, "Oh, I really love this song. It would be really good if you could get an American to feature on it and do a remix of the song, so it kind of opens it up to the US." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool." I had no idea who was going to recommend. And then one day I was in studio actually finishing off one of my tracks, and I got a call, and my friend in the US says, "Oh, this guy is on the phone. He wants to chat to you about a collab." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then the guy comes and says, "Oh, this song, I really like it. Who would you like to feature on a collab?" I'm thinking, I have no idea. Like this is like I'm on my second album. I don't feel like I'm in anybody's league, right? So I'm like, I can't even name
Mm-hmm.
any names. Tell me somebody, name a name. I'm like, okay, Kiara Shed or Jonathan McRae. I couldn't. I'm like, yeah, these are the people I
Mm-hmm.
like, and they're not too old, like
Mm-hmm.
legends. So I probably would still manage to get into their into their
Mm-hmm.
league, kind of. And he was like, no, name someone else. I'm like, okay. I have to say, this is the one person I'd love in my entire lifetime to do a collab with is Kim Burrell because she's my absolute favorite. Name someone else. Name someone. I'm like, I don't know. Who should I name? He's like, how about Fred Hammond? He said that himself. I'm like, I was gobsmacked. I was like dumbstruck. I could not speak for a good
Wow.
few minutes. I'm like, it's like, yeah. Send me the song. If he likes it, he'll do it. What?
Wow.
And the whole time, my producer could hear the conversation because I was actually recording. When I finished, I'm like, did you just hear that? He was like, yeah. I'm like, what is going on? I could not sleep for days because I sent the song to him, to Fred, and I was waiting to see if he was going to like it or
Yeah,
come back
yeah.
to me. And the great thing about, I always say this, it's been a blessing. I was given his number directly. I wasn't put through a third party or a PA.
Mm-hmm.
So I was asked to ring him up, and I rang him, and I was freaking out initially. Like I was so starstruck. I could not help myself. I could not contain myself. I'm like, oh my God, Uncle Fred, your music has helped me through. And his music literally did. That was a point in my life where I was mourning my mom's passing.
Mm.
So I was actually, yeah, it was a really tough time for me. My mom had just passed. We were planning her funeral,
Mm.
and I was listening to his song. This was even before the whole connection happened. I was listening to one of his songs, a song of strength, that
Mm-hmm.
was helping me through my mourning. And the
Yeah.
next thing I know, I'm talking to him. His music
Wow.
helped me through my miscarriages. His
Mm.
music was what I listened to the first time I left home on the bus. I remember looking out the window, going the first time I was like going far away from home.
Wow.
Um, literally, I have a song of his for every season. So I was
Mm.
freaking out on the phone.
Wow.
And he was on the other side, just being so calm, cool, and collected. In the end, I had to collect myself and be like, okay. And he was like, yeah, I love the song. Let's do it. Oh, Jesus. I cried when he sent me his voice notes back of himself singing his idea. And he was in the voice note, he was even asking me, should I go like this? Do you like it like that? I'm like, oh my God, Fred Hammond is sending me a voice note of my song and saying, does this work? Like, how do I write a song? And Fred Hammond is singing my song back to me like,
Mm.
oh Jesus. But yeah, that's how it happened basically. And the rest is history. So
That is amazing.
yeah.
I'm just like, and that's why I just like, it's like you just have to, for anyone that is just telling you, I don't know if I want to, give God a try. I don't know this, I don't know that. Like there's just there's moments like these that yes, you can write a song, but it has to be divine connection. Like there's
Oh yeah.
no way, shape, form. Even when we interviewed him, like I didn't go out seeking to say, hey, we want to talk to Fred Hammond because he was doing a play, he was releasing the play, and the person that was doing PR for him shot me an email like, hey, I'm working with this artist that's doing a play, and
He didn't tell you
Fred
who it was,
Hammond,
no.
and
Oh, okay.
do you guys want to interview him? I was like, do I want to? The question should be, when am I interviewing him?
You for real?
I responded with the utmost quickness. I'm like, sure thing. Let's do it. Great. Salutations, all of that. Let's make it happen.
ASAP.
It
Wow, that is so
was just
cool.
amazing. Yeah, definitely, because I can tell you moments of even his music and so forth, and how impactful that have been too. So it's like, just seeing these things, these connections, and I'm constantly talking to people as well, and they're like, hey, how did you, get to speak with, this person and that person? I'm like, honestly, it's all divine connection, because 90% of the time, the individuals that I'm speaking with, if I go and I DM them, they're not going to respond to me. They're just not going to do it.
You're
But
like, who's
when
this
God
dude?
goes ahead and, and that interaction happens, I just sit back, and it's just, like you said, the rest is history. So I had to ask that story. I needed to at least know what happened there. I'm like, before we wrap, I need to ask this story. So
Well, hey, I'm used to it.
awesome. So guys, we have Sarah Téibo with us right now, and you have to go and buy a ticket to that virtual concert that's happening on the 24th. Is for a great, great cause. She's put so much time and effort into this project that's coming up. We need to know how to support great music, support, build up, give back, and just support those that are just doing what God has called them to do. She could have backed away, she could have stepped back, she could have said the task was just too big, but she took it on. She obeyed. Let's go ahead. Let's support her. The album Restored is dropping on the 30th. And I have to say, that artwork and the idea for the cover, brilliant.
Oh, thank
Pure,
you.
pure, utter brilliance. I sat there looking at the cover, and I love, because in my line of work, it's my job to sought after really great covers and graphical work. And when I saw that, I'm like, wow, this is unlike anything I've seen recently. It was just so refreshing. It
Oh
was
wow,
just like
thank
the
you.
idea, the concept. It was brilliant. Yeah, I had to pause midway, but yes, I'm gonna continue.
Oh,
But yeah,
thanks.
download pre-orders available right now via Bandcamp. Go ahead, pre-order it. And Sarah, yes, thank you so much for coming on, for chatting with us. I know you have a super busy weekend, you have everything else coming up, but I appreciate you carving out some
Thank
time
you.
at this late hour, even for you. For me, it's pretty early, but for you,
I
it's
know,
late.
yeah.
It's still light out for me.
Yeah.
But
No,
thank
it's
you,
cool.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. How can people follow you and just, know
Oh
everything that
yeah.
is happening right now? Go ahead and give us your social
Yes,
handles.
on all social media platforms, it's Sarah Téibo Music. On YouTube, also look for Sarah Téibo Music. I have the Secure music video is out, and on the 30th, when the album drops, there's going to be a new music video for God Alone dropping as well on the 30th. So you don't want to miss that. So do connect with me on YouTube, Sarah Table Music, and on Spotify, you can find me Sarah Table, Teibo. And I'd love to connect. I do engage a lot. I mean, especially on Instagram, I respond to DMs. So don't be a stranger. Let's keep in touch.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you coming on again. I'm Sherwin with Gospel Music Buzz. And that's it, guys. Thank you once again.
Thank you.